Hi YouTube, here tonight working on the 320. You're probably wondering what the heck is all this wire that's laid out over this stuff. Well, that would be for the LEDs, guys. The much anticipated LED upgrade. And make no mistake about it, I'm the one anticipating it. You guys are just along for the ride. Anyway, just wanted to show you how huge of a cluster this is. It's going to be like, you know, 1% of the real wiring in a real airplane, but whatever. Tail light, up light for the logo, also known as a logo light. Up here, this is called a wing inspection light, which is going to face down the length of the wing while we're over here. Red navigation lights and white strobes eventually. For now, they're just going to be solid on. Same over there, except green and white. These LEDs are going to wrap. Going to wrap this edge of the shark fin, or whatever you guys want to call that. I call it a winglet because that's the technical terminology, but I think it's called a shark fin also. And then I'm going to have some, this would be a taxi / landing light. Going to be an ultra bright 700, I think 700, I forget what they use for the rating. That's going to be pointed forward from the, basically the wing root here. And it's going to be pointed down slightly so that it points at and in front of the ground and along the front part of the fuse. So as I'm flying, you're going to be able to see the front half of the fuselage. You're going to have a little bit of backlight that comes back and lights along the fuse. And then you're going to have the tail lit up. Back here, we're going to have two white lights. At this point, they're both just going to be solid on. And then eventually they're going to be, one of them's going to be a strobe. It's going to be tied in with the same strobe here, even though technically I think they'd be out of sequence. It's just too complicated, and that's what this circuit's for, is a little 505 timer chip and a capacitor and all this stuff, and I haven't quite got the timing worked out. Basically, I just have to get this stuff all worked out so that I get the correct strobe effect. And doesn't look like much, but you get in a dark room and that thing is really powerful. Especially when you get 5 of them all together. And really small wire, guys. I mean, this stuff is dinky. This stuff is slightly less dinky. This stuff is going to the anti-crash beacon for top and bottom, which consists of a red flashing LED or a blinking LED, which then drives a subsequent standard red. And that gives us our anti-crash beacon, and you can actually see inside of this 5mm LED, the little black thing, that's the chip that does the flash circuit. This one is not active. It is simply an LED. But this one will drive this one. So they'll flash in sequence and then out of sequence from the strobes. Now, some of you are probably thinking, well, Brian, what about landing lights? Well, yeah, of course, but not yet. Mostly because it's really already super complicated. Good Lord, look at all this wiring. So I'm going to eventually add one servo, which will be dismembered to the extent that I can take and run lights right behind that, and in on the wing root side, which is where they are on a real one. And they actually can run those with the gear closed on an A320. And then up here, I'm going to simulate a gear-mounted light, but I don't think I'm actually going to mount them to the gear just because there's too much crap going on up inside this cavity as it is. I agree, it would be awesome. But probably what's going to end up happening is I'm going to end up coming into the foam here, 2 lights that will straddle the shaft of the landing gear. And since they're going to shut off when the gears close, you won't know any better. And it's just going to look really cool. It's going to be a flood of light and excitement. I'm a little concerned. There's so many stinking lights going on here that it's going to look like some sort of an ambulatory vehicle. But even that is going to be awesome. So guys, keep watching. You're going to love it as much as I do. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching this video, and you'd be watching something about squirrels using a human toilet. I don't know. Anyway, keep watching, guys. Oh, and by the way, you know, I was showing you this. I wanted to show you one more thing before we sign off here for the initial video. This will be another series of videos here. This is how I do my LEDs. This is just a little diagram I got. Kind of shows how it is. These are the ones I use for the anti-crash beacon. Gross. Little spider thing. Tail lights. Wing root lights. And then basically I have resistors here. Different sizes, 1/4 watt or whatever I have lying around. And then I size my resistors by guess and check method, which is hook up the resistor between ground, put in the LED, which this is an example of one of the LEDs. This is a red one. And they come on these strips just like this. And typically you would actually just run 12 volts to them, and then they already have the resistance built in. These are, for instance, 151 ohm resistors. And this is designed and designated to run 3 LEDs. And incidentally, there are 3 small filaments in each of these LEDs. You can see the 3 darkened dots. That's where they actually burn bright. So I have to take this, strip back the plastic, cut them off, and or solder them off. Once they're soldered off, I lay them upside down on a table, such as this. And then I basically solder those leads, all 3 of the contact points. Now, if a guy was motivated, he could separate those so that, say, the middle one he wants to flash and then the outside 2 to stay on solid. Of course, I'm not motivated, except for, you know, this small project. So I'm just going to be using all these resistors to provide the current limiting resistance for all this crap. And then later on, here in a couple of weeks, after I've established that this is going to work, I'm going to go ahead and probably get some more high intensity white lights. I do want to do some really, really bright white lights for my landing lights on the gear. Because guys, I'll tell you what, one thing about this plane I've noticed is the wings, because of the gray color and the blue tips. When you go out and you're way out there and you make a turn, it is kind of hard to tell where the wings are. So, and part of that might come from just my personal vision, and part of it comes from the thing flies at 14 trillion light years an hour. Not with slats and flaps like I have, but if you buy one of these, it will fly at 14 trillion miles an hour. So anyway, keep watching, guys. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to show you. It is currently 11 o'clock here. Excuse me, 10:37. By the time I'm done with this, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 5 a.m. So be watching.